Oh, please continue acknowledging them while they come out. And like I said, today we'll keep it brisk and short. Right.
Peter Frimpong Manson, the technological leader of the golden age of liberty. You spring and radiate light like the sun. Oh, son of the sun, leader of the people, you will forever lead like the leader you are. And your reign shall forever be the voice of every drum of life. Every journey you have undertaken has become a landmark for generational and historical literature of greatness. Humanity is not steady. It is breath. It is heartbeat. It is the pulse of God's children. The whisper of the living ancestor inside us. The mirror of our spirits. The language of our soul. The rhythm of Africa herself. Humanity was assigned, prophetical, spiritual, to teach us who we are. So we can give, so we can serve, so we can rise. This is the rebirth of the black nation in motion. Africa reclaiming here first what destiny, the kingdom agenda alive. In the beginning, Africa built, sank, and created. We record the laws, science, and acts from the now to Timbuktu, from great Zimbabwe to Sacred Hills. God's instructions was clear. Learn, teach, share, uplift. Humanity was the first bridge for Pan-Africanism. It was the sacred blueprint for Pan-Africanism, for unity, for rebirth. But darkness came. Pains, colonizers, greed poison leaders, exploitation stalwart. Africa doesn't produce arms and guns. So how come the continent is flooded with powerful arms and bombs? Do you think we don't know? You stir our people, create those secretaries who could be in Africa. You raise our people from their communities and have their souls, minds, and spirit poisoned with deep lies and promise them a lot of million and billion of dollars. PL.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We'll have one more and then we can proceed. And I'm sure you all enjoyed her yesterday. Please go ahead.
I am Kezia Lolanyo Klinogo. I am a student of Humanity Intellectual Academy and College. DASA, 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 DASA. Digital Access Summit Africa, bringing together visionaries shaping the future of technologies and finance. The diverse line-up of industrial leaders, innovators, and pioneers who are at the forefront of technological, economical, and financial revolution for their transformation. Advancing Digital Summit in Africa, DASA is dedicated to bringing together the brightest minds, exploring the transformation, power of blockchains, cryptocurrency, AI, and decentralized system. This conference is served as a global platform of enthusiasts, true leaders, and economics. Piao.
All right, thank you very much. Oh, please, is that all you can do for her? Thank you very much. And so that initiates us into today's program, and as it is, we hope that it will be exciting. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we proceed. I would now welcome again here the convener, Mr. Peter Frimpong, to open today's session for us. And I've seen the dignitaries arrive, especially my boss, Mr. John Ewa, is here. He was here yesterday, and he's been magnanimous enough to come back today. John, thank you very much for coming in. But Peter, the mic is yours.
Thank you very much, Kwesi, for all the support and amazing work you did yesterday and you are doing today. And I want to also extend a very special welcome to all of you for joining us here this morning. I think we had an amazing time today, and I don't think today is going to be different. So I'm going to be quick. And one thing we intend to make sure we get right is the timing and the presentations so that we can all have a great day. Okay, so as you all know, my name is Peter Frimpong, so I'm the CEO for ProMark Elite Limited, and been supported by so many people to put this event together. If I start mentioning names, I don't think we can leave today. And I also want to say thank you to all of you, the speakers. I can see you here, Solomon. He's been an amazing pillar behind me since I've been here. He's been touring TV stations with me, wherever, sometimes as late as midnight. And anytime you call him, he's there to support. And what can I say about my own friend? I call him OJ, and I don't think he's happy for me to release this name. But he's one of the amazing guys. He's been my friend from University of Cape Coast all the way to here. And anytime I've called upon him, he's made himself available to me, and I'm greatly appreciative of that. And what can I say about Mimi? She was brilliant yesterday. This morning, when I came, your picture was displayed there. They took a very nice shot. You should have come to see it. So all protocols observed. Thank you all once again for coming. And good morning once again, distinguished delegates, partners, speakers, and friends. On behalf of the DASA Organizing Committee and ProMark Elite Limited, it is my greatest pleasure to welcome you back to day 2 of the Digital Asset Summit Africa. Yesterday was an extraordinary start. We listened to the thought-provoking presentations and discussions that set the tone for the work ahead of opening work we are going to be doing today. Kwame Opon, head of Fintech and Innovation, discussed the planned VASP licensing regulations. Professor Samuel Kobna Anim reminded us of the power of the data in shaping financial innovations, and Professor Tonya M. Evans really delivered a very powerful keynote speech which focused on our theme for the conference this year, which is unlocking Africa's digital economy through innovations and regulations. The energy in the room showed clearly that Africa is not waiting. We are moving, building, and innovating, and DASA is a platform where those ambitions meet strategy and actions. Today, we continue the journey, expect deeper dives into issues like cross-border digital payments, the future of AI and blockchain in financial services, and a showcase of Africa's most promising startups. We'll also look forward to our fireside chats with a panel and then panel debate as well, where bold ideas will be tested and solutions crafted together. As organizers, our motivation remains simple: to ensure that Africa is not a bystander, but a leader in the global digital economy. ProMark Elite Limited is honored to host this maiden edition of DASA and to work alongside each of you in shaping what comes next. Let us carry the momentum of day 1 today. Open minds, bold ideas, and a shared commitment to building Africa's digital financial future. Thank you once again, and let's make day 2 even more better and impactful than day 1. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Peter. Oh, please, is that all you can do for him? He's the one championing the agenda and making sure we are all here, and of course, for this event to go on. I believe that 2026 is going to be bigger. Who believes with me that next year will be bigger? Let me see your hand. Or let me see your shouting. Oh, I have video cameras here. So can I see your shouting? Well, so Can I see your shouting is by one, for those of you who don't live in Ghana, it's by one of our pastors here in Ghana who mixes English with the Chi language all the time. He's very popular in the country called Ubinim. So when he wants to hear you or see your wave or see you respond, he shouts, let me hear or let me see your shouting. So can I see your shouting once more? Let me see your shouting. Next year, 2026, is going to be big. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be better. DASA 2026. You would hear more about it today. And of course, I believe that even though this is the ICT center, we may not be able to accommodate everybody here. And so we may next year move out of this place, probably at the Accra International Conference Center, where we can gather oh, you didn't clap to that. We can gather everybody in the technology space, and then we'll get much more sponsors. Today I'll be on John. John can give us a lot of money, so I'll be on him today. But forgive me, Chief. Yeah, so yesterday I had one of our guests who said this is the shortest fireside chats he's ever had in his life. And I'm sure that a lot more people wanted to listen to more of him based on the kind of expertise that he wields and the things he had to share. So today, it is in the interest of all of us, and it is the mindset of the team that we experience him once more because he doesn't live in the country. We don't want him to go back to where he's coming from, all the way from South Africa, without sharing the knowledge that he has. So at least for the next 15 minutes, because I have the mic, I'm going to give the opportunity to Mr. Larry Coke to come and share with us. Oh, please acknowledge him properly for me. Some knowledge that he has in the fintech space. He's a lawyer of Binance. Please acknowledge him once more. Let me give him the mic.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. You're doing an excellent job, by the way, as MC. The way you get the crowd running, the way it's smooth. I don't have a clicker, or is this the clicker? I'm assuming. There we go. Okay, cool. Okay, so I won't do much of an introduction of who I am, but just in case there's anyone new, I'm Larry Cook from Binance. I'm the head of legal for the entire region of Africa, amongst many other hats. Yesterday's chat was more so on AI. I'm also the global POC, which is point of contact for AI. And amongst of other things that I do as well, I also try and link up key initiatives and partnerships in the different regions that we operate in. Currently, we only have a footprint in South Africa, where there's a license application. We're waiting for Kenya to open up its licensing regime so we can apply. We're waiting for Ghana to open up its licensing regime so we can apply. So the future of Africa looks bright, and Binance is truly invested into it. So that's something to share. But what I want to do, and why I've titled this, what digital assets could, being the operative word, do for Africa, is because I think sometimes there's a lot of opportunity, and because there's a lot of opportunity, we get complacent, and sometimes we might just miss that opportunity, and it might be a little too late. So I really hope that what I'm about to share with you inspires the tech developers, the institutional users, the retail users to do something more progressively with the space that we find ourselves in. So just as a high level, I'm not going to repeat everything on the slide. Happy that Peter can distribute it to the attendants. But this is Binance in a nutshell. What we're about, who we are, why we exist. And keep in mind, Binance is only 8 years old. So with these type of numbers that I'm going to show you, as big as we are, as massive as we look, we still got a lot of learning to do. One of the learning curves is also being able to tailor-make the solutions and our offerings to local markets. Hence why I do a lot of traveling from Ghana, Kenya, Ethiopia, Nigeria, etc., to try and bridge the gap between what the global house of Binance look like and kind of tailor-make that with partners, local partners, to what that looks like for the community locally and per region. But high level, we're about the freedom of money. Our mission is about building. We're very user-orientated and focused. We have about nearly 300 million registered users. That means we're clearly doing something right. And our values, which is also integral to any company to see where they're going, is what actually makes the matrix of what Binance does internally, not just externally. And as you can see, we results driven from hardcore. Integrity is why we focused on our actions, collaborative, and freedom. So that's in a nutshell Binance. And I'm trying to stay to the 15 minutes, so that's why I'm a bit rushed on the less focused content. Again, some of the numbers, so Binance in numbers, over, I know it says 400 listed, it's probably 1,000 right now. It says 280, it's around about 300 million right now. We still lead also the countries as well, as probably about 200 plus right now, and as well as the card transactions are much higher. But as a snapshot, this is where Binance is, and we really just going to be continuing growing with the key focus of Africa being for the next wave, especially going into 2026. So this is a lot of words, and I never took into account the type of screen that we have, which is quite cool. But I kind of just want to get back to the basics and show where we kind of positioned from a digital assets perspective, right? So I spoke previously about the fourth industrial revolution. I spoke also about the fifth industrial revolution called the imagination age, and how we kind of already transitioning into that. But just as a recap from the fourth industrial revolution, it's really building on the third industrial revolution and really focusing on the digital revolution of what we saw as the Internet of Things, where speed, scope, and impact of emerging technologies are really pushing forward this industry. From this fourth industrial revolution, we find that distributed ledger technologies was birthed, and this is a system for recording certain transactions where the details themselves has become decentralized. And I gave the notion that we lived in a very centralized world. A lot of structure was based on centralization, and there was pitfalls to this centralized model that existed. One, maybe we never trusted the authorities that were in position. One, we never had full transparency in terms of what was actually taking place. And there's a whole lot of issues that was raised with centralization, and that gave birth to decentralization. Decentralization, where it's more of what you find now, distributed ledger technologies coming in place, where you have a system that's vetted and transparent to everybody that's part of the ledger, so to say. And you find the same phenomena taking place from a lot of other industries, such as AI, where intelligence was probably centralized, and artificial intelligence also gives us decentralized type of model of intelligence. So that's where distributed ledger technologies came, and that was probably the first leapfrog into this space. And then specifically, blockchain technology started being developed. Blockchain technologies, the word is sometimes misleading, but it's ultimately information that's put together in a block. Each block links to the next block, and then you have a chain, and that's called the blockchain. Nothing special, but self-explanatory. But it becomes useful when you start seeing the application of it, because as you'll see some of the key aspects of security, transparency, immutability, all of these are the aspects why we started building on the blockchain. From the blockchain, you find something called digital assets. Now, digital assets, and I know some of you guys might be very versed in this, but I'm also catering for some of the audience that just need to slow it down and just make sure that everything makes sense. So digital assets now become the fourth layer of that, where it's really about taking digital assets and putting it in a digital form that can be owned, traded, invested, consumed, stored, or destroyed, which I think sometimes we walk past quite quickly. And from that subcategory of digital assets, you then have cryptocurrencies, which is digital virtual currencies based on cryptographic technologies from a security perspective that operates on a decentralized network. And that's where we find ourselves. So Binance is the world's largest crypto exchange, being a cryptocurrency exchange based on digital assets, blockchain, distributed ledger technologies. However, that's not the only thing that Binance does. As most people are aware of, cryptocurrencies can take different shapes and forms depending on utility, depending on certain protocols. It can be stable coins, as well as digital assets, as well as wide enough to cover real-world asset tokenization as well. So that's a quick crash course 101 in terms of what is digital assets, where we are, and what is Binance about. So slowing it down a bit, going to this cryptocurrency conversation in terms of why is there so much hype about cryptocurrency, and kind of taking it in comparison to what actual fiat is. Fiat being legal tender being the money Ghanaian cedis that you hold in you that gets issued by the central bank. So this is a comparative analysis, just generally speaking, in terms of what fiat consists of and what crypto consists of. And you would see that, or the argument that I put forward to you guys is that there's no real difference. Each element that qualifies for what fiat would constitute is also found in the components of what crypto exists. If you're looking at if you're looking at fiat from a monetary policy perspective, you have crypto that's governed by white paper that's coded. And ultimately, if you work down this list, you'll see that you're working with trust when you trust in the institutions such as the central banks and the relevant authorities, whereas crypto is more community-based and you are trusting the sentiment from the community, and that will obviously change in terms of what type of crypto asset we're talking about. And then at the bottom, you see some of the fundamentals from a legal perspective of what contains what is money. And you'll find that all of these elements of durability, portability, divisibility, uniformity, scarcity, and exchange is common in both traditional money as well as crypto. And I leave one question over there around anonymity, right? The anonymous nature of crypto, that sometimes it gets blackened with, unfortunately, in the terms of it gets tarnished. But at the same time, if I had to walk up to you guys or someone with a bag of cash, you don't necessarily know where that cash comes from. So I can also operate with cash from an anonymous perspective. And this makes the argument that crypto and fiat is like for like. And then this is just something for food for thought. You guys can discuss it in the plenary. But if cash is king, who's the heir to cash? Because we had mobile money reiteration. And again, I put forward an argument that perhaps digital assets, or at least cryptocurrencies, might be that next heir to this thing called cash that is king. Okay, some interesting positioning from an Africa perspective, especially around, oh, that's fast. Interesting positioning from a digital landscape perspective. Cryptocurrency, as you can see, is something that has always been shared as an opportunity for Africa. And the question is, why is it an opportunity for Africa? I'm not going to go through all the stats, but one I'm going to sit on is that there was a lot of mention about South Africa, Saharan Africa was ranked number one, is number one. I want to correct that and say it was number one. That was in 2023. Currently, APAC, which is the Asia Pacific region, as well as LATAM, which is the Latin America region, those are two up-and-coming markets that also possibly pose a threat to Africa's mass adoption of crypto. And I say that comparatively because the first introduction when I started speaking is saying that we have this opportunity as Africans to capitalize on the space, but it's not going to be an opportunity or window of opportunity that's going to be open forever. That being said, there's a lot of successes that we can talk to about what's happening in Africa in general, the top key markets, which is the top four, as we're aware of, and then also the key sector, sectors such as financial inclusion, remittancy, and identity verification. I'll get into. I just made a note there regarding this insights, and I just wanted to share from a country perspective, right? So if you look at top 10, there's an index that's going around that was published on the 4th by Bitcoin Insights. And I just want to go through the top 10 countries so that you guys are aware of it. So at 4th of September, number 1 is India. And this is a global index. Number 1 is India. Number 2 is United States. Number 3 is Pakistan. Number 4 is Vietnam. Number 5 is Brazil. Number 6 is Nigeria. Number 7 is Indonesia. Number 8 is Ukraine. Number 9 is Philippines. And number 10 is the Russian Federation. Now, out of that top 10 from a global index, you only find one African country. And that should already signal some type of alarm that a lot of the stuff that you hear on mainstream media is sometimes just headline topics, and that we really need to take this space as our own. So Ghana needs to take this as our own and really build on it and move forward, which you guys have been doing exceptionally already. Again, I'm not going to go through all the stats, but some of them have been repeated through day one. But something to keep in mind, I probably want to touch on the last 3 points around regulation, youth, and policy, is that out of the 54 countries in Africa, there's only 6 that have really put pen to paper in terms of law, and 2 pending, Ghana being one of them and Kenya being the other. Youth population, again, that's a key driver in terms of what's moving this adoption curve. And then the last point that not a lot of people acknowledge or at least appreciate is around policy. And these are the mindset adjustments that our existing authorities have taken in terms of embracing this new technology and embracing this new era that we find ourselves in. And not just that, keeping in mind foreign policy and how it's been directing certain positions we find ourselves in Africa. Certain countries, because of the FATF grey listing, they required to put in certain restrictions around managing capital outflow, dealing with certain flight risk, dealing with terrorist funding initiatives, etc. And those are some of the policies that also influence this adoption curve in Africa specifically. So that's something to keep in mind. And then everything else, business interest, unbanked population, high mobile penetration, we're all quite familiar with that. So where does that leave us now? Okay, so the key use cases also to highlight, and this is something that I've seen right across Africa throughout engagements with various authorities and stakeholders and partners. This is not a closed list, but this is the most the most widest list in terms of what the use cases are. Because a lot of the times when you're speaking to certain authorities, they ask, okay, why is it relevant? What are the local guys actually doing with this cryptocurrency or technologies? So again, institutional efficiencies, financial inclusion, supply chain transparency, identification and governance, and then of course the creative economy and NFTs, which moves us into the segment of the fifth industrial revolution. So some of the challenges, again, not to belabor the point, but just go through them at a high level. Again, there's the infrastructure gaps that obviously exist. We still need to do better in terms, and as an African continent, in terms of internet access, in terms of mobile device access. As much as it's already so fluent, there's still those that don't have. And that's something that needs to be addressed. Education and awareness, that's where we also obviously try and assist in terms of making available programs such as the Binance Academy, doing our labs, Binance Labs, in terms of trying to help and educate not just institutional level, but also from a builder's level. And then again, security and scamming, that's one of the challenges we need to manage. Also keep in mind future risks such as quantum decoding. That's something that we also need to keep in mind of, as well as AI, which I touched on yesterday. And then the last one is obviously regulatory uncertainty. And that's where, if you look at frameworks like in the European Union, where they have MICA, Africa also has this opportunity to try and streamline certain terminologies and typologies of what digital assets look like for us. Case in point is there's a big dichotomy that's taking place in Nigeria where they classify stable coins as a security, and it falls under the SEC, the Security Exchange Commission, which kind of goes completely opposite to where the rest of the world is going. And that doesn't necessarily bring good investor confidence when you're trying to enter into new markets. So those are the pitfalls that one also needs to be aware of in terms of shaping the space. I'm going to briefly go through the stats and I'll be wrapping up shortly. So these are some of the stuff that was highlighted, but in summary is that there's this era of exponential in terms of how we've been progressing from bank accounts to mobile money wallets to now crypto. And if you look at the type of growth that you find within the digital asset space, it's not going to be a couple years until the numbers start matching the mobile money wallet numbers, and then eventually taking over bank account numbers. And again, keeping in mind the world population and how much Africa actually contributes towards that. Again, just a snapshot of the leading market jurisdictions in Africa. Nigeria is still #1. South Africa is actually #2 in terms of certain key metrics and estimations. Again, these numbers vary. And then #3 is Ghana, and #4 is actually Kenya. So without Ghana doing much, Ghana is actually quite high in terms of the matrix for the African region. So that's something to actually look into and say we can actually have a big opportunity to do more. Last thing, bringing your attention that Binance does also have a research department where we provide these key insights from a global perspective. So feel free to check it out. Also keep in mind when people talk about speculation and how does the markets move, it's no different to any traditional market. You have your macroeconomic policy, macroeconomy, you have your monetary policy, you have your geopolitical situations, as well as your regulatory policies that actually move the sentiments around crypto specifically. Opportunities at a high level for the people. You have inclusivity, you have certainty, you have optionality. I know more than one of us have different means of payments. You have your mobile money wallet, you have your different bank accounts in terms of what you use for spending, saving, etc. And crypto becomes one of those additional layers for users to optimize. For private companies and from startups all the way to the blue chips, it's always about liquidity, it's always about sustainability and expansion. And then for the powers such as policy and regulators, it's obviously AML de-risking, mandate support and monetary tools such as stablecoins being used as a version 2 of CBDCs from a proof of reserves aspect or from managing certain risks. And I'm going to end up over there. Thank you for that time.
I'm not sure you saw me, but you were already finishing. But please acknowledge him properly for me. It was a very insightful one and very detailed one. I'm sure that he would stay around for a while. So those of you who want to engage him, thank you very much. And for everybody else that has joined us online, if you reach out to Peter, you won't be able to reach out to Larry. So Larry will continue to share with us the kind of knowledge he's acquired over the period and what exactly he's been sharing with us. So what I'm going to do is that I would have kind of interlace so that you don't have speeches over and over and over again. So we are going to jump to a fireside chat.
Act 10:38. I love the way he says it. I'm always like, why is it double? But we'll take that one later on. And Doug also has a wonderful book that I have a copy here. The 10 Commandments for Sustainable National Cybersecurity Development. So if you don't have one, make sure you get it and get the autograph before he leaves here. Right to our discussion today. I'll go straight in because we don't have much time here yet. So, Dr. Albert Njibo Esiako. As Ghana's digital economy grows, looking at how far fintech is expanding, e-commerce and then e-government, all platforms are expanding and increasing. What do you see as the biggest opportunity and the biggest risks when it comes to digital asset? Because we see a lot of assets moving into the digital space.
It's been a while, but I want to thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts this month. I think you're right, and the number of research is being conducted, estimating in billions of US value about digital economy. I think one of them is mentioned about 5 billion USD in about 2030.
Wow.
That is
That's huge.
important element of economic development that ought to be given serious attention. Certainly, opportunities there. If you look at the current digital development trends, I see opportunity in what I think is data-driven growth and services. I think it's data. You look at our internet penetration, it's about 24 million population. We have close to double of that amount. Be that number of mobile connections as well. So I think the trend is not pretty bad, when you look at this average. So there is this opportunity for data to be generated that will help with analytics in all the sectors, looking at health, securing our digital assets.
Right.
And if we are unable to protect our systems, especially the lower level, the SMEs, we are unable to protect them, and the systems are compromised, certainly they will lose the trust to patronize the service to help grow in that particular sector. Of course, data protection has also been one of the core areas. Private information, once we create a database, data-driven economy, invariably giving our personal information out to access digital services. And that is also one concern that we need to develop. But again, there is also this issue of digital inequality. We still have a good number of population who are not connected to the formal sector, who are still within that bracket. And I do believe that's also something that policy intervention will help drive, so that all of us can benefit equally in equitable manner the digital dividends that this group promised to offer to the citizens. Thank you.
Right. So thank you, Doc. Whilst you were speaking, you were talking about people giving out their personal details and all that, and then the risks involved. Now, this story brings it to one side of it. Now, the other side is the users having the trust. So let's say a student who is paying their fees online, the trader who is using mobile money or Momo to do their transaction, or the SME person who is running their business online. We have to understand, or we get to understand, that cybersecurity is said to be the backbone of trust. The trust issue. It's a whole thing. People are thinking about it. How does that actually help the everyday Ghanaian to feel safe when they are transacting or running small businesses online? That kind of trust. Is it really there, and how do we go about that?
We need to create that collectively. Governments that lays an enabler, the tech ecosystem, industry, that citizens' adoption of digital services, digital products, the consumption of our digital products is certainly dependent on how well they feel connected and trust the platform that they're using. Therefore, from the cybersecurity standpoint, I think we need to assure citizens in terms of secure transactions. That is very important. If I know that I can still access this mobile, this website, put my data there, at the end of the day, get a service, the product will be delivered to me. This is the e-commerce website. So I can go in there, enter my credit card details, or at least do mobile payments, and the product, as it described on the website, will be delivered to me within 3 days, as it's been promised. No fakeness, no excuses. Absolutely, that will then represent a new dimension of the society that we're creating. So the secure transaction is key, and I think that is what cybersecurity comes in strongly, and not just the government implementing these regulations and policy, but also the ecosystem creators itself. How do we even make our site more secure to facilitate this trust building? So I think that is one important element of facilitating the trust of the internet. But you see, trust is also not just about nothing will happen. Availability is key. When we deploy digital infrastructure, the platforms, we make attempt to use those services, and they are not there. The next time, the appetite won't be there. Look, this site, when you even go there, the website is not available. I couldn't get a service. Let me just take my moto, Okada, and then move and do my physical shopping than actually thinking of buying online. So availability is very important, that the system is available, resources are available, the citizen can then develop the trust around that. But I think we should also look at it. In the world of digital transformation, cyber, hacking is essentially a threat. One way or the other, something will happen. But a trust building among the citizens can also be achieved if we have clear support system to achieve that. So for example, I'm doing e-commerce and I'm defrauded somehow, and there is some sort of remedy, either through insurance or some sort of compensation. That also gives us some sort of assurance. If there are clear communication channels that I can seek support if incident arising from a cyber occurrence happens, that will also facilitate that trust building process. So we certainly will need to do that. But the ecosystem, we can also activate the trust building models. This can be introduced by the industry, for developers, for the ecosystem to activate this mechanism that shows certain level of trust around the product that they use. I think some countries like Singapore and others have experimented few areas that can help collectively build the trust also within the ecosystem. So beyond the individual level and maybe government intervention, I think the industry needs to also come together as the overall beneficiaries of this growth that we're talking about, so that at least the trust building can be achieved at all levels within the ecosystem.
You mentioned of hacking, and then I think when you talk about cybersecurity, the next word or the next buzzword that comes is hacking. Everybody's like, oh, that's the thing. And I know you have that passion for this next one that we're going to talk about, that is awareness. And you've extensively stated that in your book here about awareness. I love it when you were in office. Anytime I see you, your major thing is creating that education and an awareness. Right. We normally say in cybersecurity that the weakest link is the end user. I mean, aside the systems and everything, there is a human being that is sitting behind the screens. How is cybersecurity helping, or how are we doing the awareness such that people come to that knowledge, such that they see any link, they are not just clicking on it? I mean, sometimes it's funny, you see this kind of messages that is going viral. You've won 30 gigabytes of data, and the funny thing is you've not actually enrolled in any kind of raffle or something of that sort, but you go on that. How are we bringing up to speed the normal human being or the lay person, not dealing with cybersecurity expert, but making sure that everybody on that same platform have that kind of awareness?
It's very important. Ben, permits me to look at this beyond what traditionally we've been expecting government to do. But I think it's improving in terms of the awareness aspect of mitigating this problem. And I want to comment, for example, the banking sector. I've seen some of the banks initiating awareness creation targeting their users, which is great. The whole banks that they take up phishing threats, ransomware threats, creating quite a good awareness. So they haven't gone to the media talking as maybe I used to do at the CSA. But I think they are making quite tangible impact by way of connecting directly to their citizens and creating this. I think that is the level of awareness that we should be looking at it. Of course, the government will certainly start off these campaigns. October 1st is certainly a cyber awareness month, and that the ecosystem connect and also help create the necessary awareness. But I think I want to push this responsibility to individual users of the system. Once you are buying a particular digital devices, what responsibility do we take around learning the basic cyber hygienic practices? But again, I've mentioned about a bank who offers financial services, also assuming responsibility that, look, I need to educate my client as far as the common threats that my internal audit or my information security department has related to me. This is very important. We should certainly also be able to transmit the same culture even to SMEs, app developers. And this is where we can connect to the trust mark system. So if you are even a developer, you develop website, for SMEs, how do you incorporate cybersecurity practices to SMEs that you are offering those services to? So I think we need to expand that and take the headache from government as ultimate, responsibility owner in terms of creating awareness and involve more of the ecosystem so that we can expand the target, the number of eventually our citizens that we can provide us important knowledge and awareness to. Okay. We've been reminded about the timekeeper.
and yes, I mean, taking that kind of pressure out of government, I also want to commend the Ghana Association of Bankers, as you were saying. I mean, I remember during your tenure, they had to do this, Mr. Ewa and Madam Audrey and the team. They had to do this kind of awareness. purely for journalists in how to help with disseminating and sending information up there. Now, this part is very, very passionate for you, because I know it was under your term that you brought this thing, policies and then framework. And as I said earlier on, I said I love the way you always said that the Cybersecurity Act 2020 at 1038. Ghana has introduced the policies and framework for cybersecurity. Now, what's working well? And where do you see the gaps in building a secure, innovative, inclusive ecosystem, digital ecosystem?
Man, that's pretty good. Yes, you're right. Within the past couple of years, collectively as a country, I think we've made good progress. Not just the previous government, but successive government as well. And not just government, but also private sector actors. You did mention John and others. I think we need to put that in perspective. So collectively, the ecosystem has made some tangible progress. And by way of the legislation, policy implementation, convention, and others. But what remains, what we need to give more attention is the compliance enforcement. It's very important. So protection of critical information infrastructure is one huge area. How are we collaborating, the government collaborating with the industry to ensure that at least the baseline security requirements are in place? Not just them. How do we extend that sort of compliance and best practices to cover SMEs? You know, certainly the banking sector is the most mature sector within the ecosystem, and also they are, I think, the most advanced in terms of cyber investment in that area. How do we ensure that at least when you have ICT budget of 100,000 Ghana cedis, 25,000 of that is going into what? Cybersecurity, at least 25% of that. I think India is introducing even a normative instrument that will put about is about 30% of that into cybersecurity protection. So I think if you ask me, the baseline, the foundation have been created collectively within the Republic. What remains is industry working with the state and its agencies to ensure that we implement those regulations. It's good for all of us to protect and sustain our growing digital economy. Okay.
Right. That's good for us to sustain our growing digital economy. Now, I just want to ask the last one. Looking forward. Looking ahead, next 5 to 10 years, what's the role cybersecurity is going to play in the digital assets ecosystem?
Like, I think just one word. It's going to be the backbone to sustain, digital asset development, digital economy. Cyber is, when we started this, some years ago, it wasn't like this. I remember when we even started talking about setting up cybersecurity authority. It did appear as if we're duplicating, creating several agencies. But I think it's emerging. Ghana started quickly, and our colleagues in Ivory Coast and others have started following suit. It's always like that. But there's no doubt, if you do a survey in this room, that none of us will doubt the primacy of cybersecurity as we build a digital economy. We're transforming the economy. We develop an information-driven society, data-driven society. Whether it's AI or whichever, you need cybersecurity to provide some sort of guarantee. Not 100%, but at least some sort of assurance. But this new dimension of society we're developing has got certain pillars, and that's cybersecurity across all levels. Thank you.
Across all levels. Thank you so much, Doc. But just a minute. Before you go. I mean, we are not hearing of you now. So last one. What's your final words for us?
Well, I think my final word will still be to the community. This is a community-driven ecosystem, whether cyber or digital economy discussions. And when we're able to bring the community together, especially the younger ones who are harnessing their skills and talent in this area, I do believe most of you will be pursuing cybersecurity as well, beyond data scientists and AI experts. We believe you can pursue cybersecurity. Ultimately, that will provide a guarantee for all the things that we're developing. I think it's an area I wish to see most of Ghanaians, the young ones, develop their skills and interests. I will be there to mentor and support such progress.
Right, so that's you. He'll be there to mentor and support that progress. So seeing on the screen now is the 10 Commandments for Sustainable National Cybersecurity Development. So that's it. You can get more from this book. And thank you so much, Dr. Albert Entry Boesiako. It was a pleasure having you on this one. Thank you, sir.
Oh, please a proper round of applause for Doc and our venerable Ben as well. So thank you very much, Doc. But I do hope that you will stay in at least for some time. All right, so thank you very much. And we'll move on. We'll move on. Once he has had a handshake with John, it means that he's handing over the baton to John. And so I'll not waste much time, but I would have to call him. Let me just open up on what he's coming to talk about. He's coming to talk about unlocking Africa's digital economy through innovation and regulation, a banking sector perspective. So for those of you who are outside the country or you may not know him very well, he supervises every bank here in Ghana. And so you want to take your time and listen to him. Whenever I sit with him on air, I take my time to ask him questions regarding interest rates and why they are charging us so much, and those of us who want to start businesses, whether in technology or wherever, why we can't have access to finance. So he will have a lot of answers for you. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mr. John Ewua. Oh, please acknowledge him well so he can have answers for us.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I'm happy this morning we are not talking about interest rates. We are talking about something bigger for digital Africa. So, as was mentioned by our venerable MC, the focus of my presentation or the short speech I'm going to give will be on what the banking sector can do to facilitate quick, safe migration of financial products into the digital arena. I'll stand on the established protocols and say that it's an honor for me and a privilege to stand before you today at this inaugural Digital Access Summit Africa, DASA 2025. The landmark gathering has brought together, yesterday I was here, a lot of experts, visionaries, regulators, industry leaders, and innovators from across the continent and beyond to chart the future of Africa's digital economy. On behalf of the Ghana Association of Banks, I extend my deepest appreciation to the organizers, our partners, and every stakeholder here for your shared commitment to shaping a secure, innovative, and inclusive financial future for the African continent. The theme for this year's event, Unlocking Africa's Digital Economy Through Innovation and Regulation, is both relevant and urgent. It encapsulates a fundamental truth. In an age defined by unprecedented technological advancement, the pathway to sustainable economic empowerment lies in our capacity to harness innovation with both prudence and purpose. Digital assets, blockchain infrastructure, and emerging financial technologies are not just trends and buzzwords. They are tools with the power to transform cross-border trade, expand financial inclusion, and accelerate sustainable economic growth. As we meet here today, and yesterday we met as well, not only to explore the potential of these tools, but also to confront the realities they bring, the opportunities, the risks, and the responsibilities that they fall on all of us. The decisions we make now will determine whether Africa stands as a global leader in a digital finance or remain on the sidelines of this transformative era. Across the globe, Finance is undergoing a transformation that is both rapid and irreversible. This transformation is not being driven solely by traditional banks or regulators, government policy, but by the rise of a new category of asset value, the digital asset. Built on the blockchain and related technologies, these assets encompass cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, stable coins, tokenized representation of real assets, and even central bank digital currencies, what has come to be known as CBDCs. Digital assets have moved from the margins of online experimentation into mainstream financial discussions. They have redefined how value can be stored, transferred, and owned, creating new possibilities for cross-border trade, investments, and inclusion. For Africa, with its young, connected population and untapped economic potential, these tools represent an opportunity to leapfrog stages of financial development that took other regions decades to build. Yet, as with any powerful innovation, they bring some significant challenges and risks. From consumer fraud and money laundering, risks to monetary policy transmission, to systemic threats to financial stability. The challenge, my friends here, is for policymakers in Africa and innovators alike, not whether to engage in digital assets, but how to do so in a way that maximizes their benefits while minimizing whatever dangers that we see ahead. From the perspective of the association where I work, the pathway forward requires a careful blend of regulatory clarity, institutional adoption, technological investment, and last but by no means the least, and which was highlighted by Dr. Nchubu Osiaku here, a massive public education. We can take a cue from the global arena, because any conversation about Africa's digital future should begin with an understanding of what is happening in other regions of the globe. In April of 2023, the European Union took a decisive step with the adoption of the Markets in Crypto Assets Regulation, MiCA. This was the first comprehensive legal framework for digital assets in a major economic bloc, designed to balance innovation with consumer protection and systemic stability. Since its adoption, EU member states such as Germany and France have moved quickly to operationalize these rules. German banks are now offering regulated custody services for cryptocurrencies, while French institutions have issued tokenized bonds within the MiCA framework. At the same time, European Central Bank have pushed forward with CBDC projects, example being Sweden's e-krona, which has now piloted and tested for its retail use, while the European Central Bank has also conducted cross-border trials that digital assets are not confined to private sector innovation. They are increasingly a core focus of monetary authorities seeking to modernize payment systems and safeguard monetary sovereignty. Let's come home, or let's come somewhere closer home. Several African countries have moved from hesitation to active engagement. In Nigeria, after banning banks from facilitating cryptocurrencies in 2021, it reversed its stance in 2023 and introduced a licensing regime for virtual asset service providers. Our friend from South Africa talked about what is happening there, because South Africa has also brought crypto assets under its Financial Advisory and Intermediary Services Act, requiring registration and compliance with anti-money laundering standards. Again, in Namibia, in 2023, they passed the Virtual Assets Act, combining consumer protection with measures to attract innovation and investment. The consistent lesson from these cases is that doing nothing is not a neutral position. In the absence of formal regulation, digital asset activity will not disappear. It will simply move into informal, often unregulated channels where risks that we see crystallize and are very difficult to manage. So what has Ghana been doing? And yesterday, I know the rep from Bank of Ghana touched on it. Our experience of digital assets has mirrored the journey of many emerging markets. An initial phase of prohibition, followed by a gradual recognition of the need for a structured regulation. Notices issued by Bank of Ghana in 2018 and again in 2022 explicitly prohibited banks and payment service providers from facilitating crypto transactions. The rationale was straightforward. Without regulatory clarity, the risks outweighed the benefits. However, it didn't take too long for the rapid growth of the sector to make it difficult for the realization that inaction was now unsustainable. According to the bank's own draft guidelines on digital assets, which was issued in August of 2024, interest in digital assets is mainly driven by what has already been said about the high mobile penetration rates in the country, a tech-savvy youth demography with high interest in internet usage, and finally, the need for cheaper and faster remittance services. The most widely used assets are Bitcoin and stable coins, such as the USDT. Transactions are often predominantly under $1,000 and often occur through peer-to-peer platforms rather than centralized exchanges. Use cases range from remittances and savings to merchant payments and the daring ones for speculative trading. Recognizing these trends, the Bank of Ghana has shifted toward a regulatory approach that aims to foster innovation while protecting the integrity of the financial system. The August 2024 guideline proposes licensing requirements for VASP, that is the virtual asset service providers, including governance, capital requirements, and cybersecurity standards. Strict compliance with KYC and AML measures in line with global standards such as the FATF Recommendation 15. Regulatory sandboxes for testing innovative digital asset products. Limited engagements by banks, allowing banks to provide services to registered VAPs, but not to operate directly in digital asset businesses. And finally, mandatory consumer education and risk disclosures. This transition from outright prohibition to a balanced regulatory framework reflects an understanding that digital assets, if properly managed, can be integrated into Ghana's broader financial architecture. While retail adoption has been the driving force behind Ghana's digital asset activity so far, long-term impact will depend on institutional adoption. This means banks, investment firms, and other formal institutions incorporating digital assets solutions into their offerings under regulated conditions. The global experiences is instructive. In the United States, the approval of a spot Bitcoin exchange-traded funds, the ETFs, in 2024 unlocked more than $53 billion in investments within months. The key factor was not a sudden interest in Bitcoin. That interest already existed, but the availability of a regulated, institution-friendly vehicle for investors facilitated the migration. For Ghana and Africa broadly, institutional adoption could take forms tailored to our economic realities. Examples can be tokenized cocoa futures, which will allow farmers to access global markets directly, improving price transparency and income stability. We can also have fractionalized real estate investments, which could open up property markets to ordinary citizens, people who otherwise would not have the capacity to own their own homes. And finally, diaspora bonds that can be issued on blockchain can make it easier and cheaper for our brothers and sisters abroad to invest in national development projects. By shifting the focus from speculative trading to real economy applications, institutional adoption can make digital assets a tool for inclusive growth rather than a playground for high-risk speculators. We cannot leave the elephant in the room, that is addressing the risks, that is fraud, crime, and market manipulation. The opportunities are significant, but so are the risks. Data from the 2024 Crypto Crime Report shows that 44% of illicit crypto transaction volumes globally is linked to sanctioned entities. Common scams in sub-Saharan Africa include address poisoning, that is where attackers manipulate wallet addresses to divert funds. We have pig butchering schemes in which victims are drawn into long-term fraudulent investment relationships. And finally, fake initial coin offerings, what we call the ICOs, promising outsized, oversized returns. And we've seen real life of that in Ghana here. So we are quite familiar with fake initial offerings. Global events have reinforced the seriousness of these risks. The collapse of FTX in 2022 and the Terra Luna crash wiped out billions in value and severely damaged trust in the sector. Mitigating these risks will include and require a real-time transaction monitoring system using AI and machine learning tools, strong KYC AML procedures across all digital asset platforms, regulatory cooperation across borders to tackle crimes that do not respect national boundaries. Having talked about AI and machine learning, let me just spend a few time here, a minute or two. Technology can be used to address the very risk that we are seeing. AI and machine learning offer powerful tools for monitoring and securing digital asset transactions. Blockchain analytics platforms such as chain analysis can map complex transaction flows, identify high-risk wallets, and link activity to known criminal entities. Machine learning algorithms can help us detect patterns in transaction data that signal emerging frauds, enabling faster intervention. Automated risk scoring can prioritize suspicious activity for review, making compliance teams more effective and building trust, as we talked about earlier. Perhaps the most exciting frontier for Africa lies in tokenization, converting rights to an asset into a digital token that can be digitized, divided, and traded. Tokenization can democratize access to investment opportunities and provide liquidity for traditionally illiquid assets. In Rwanda, tokenization of their coffee supply chains has improved market access and earnings for farmers. In South Africa, tokenized municipal bonds are funding local infrastructure. For Ghana, what possibilities can we have? We can tokenize solar energy projects, enabling communities to invest in and benefit from renewable energy. Micro shares in SMEs, allowing ordinary citizens to also participate in business ownership. And last, blockchain-based rotating savings groups with transparent records to build trust and accountability. In conclusion, Africa stands at a defining moment. The bridge to the digital economy is being built, and we have a choice. We can either watch others cross it or walk across ourselves with a clear plan, strong safeguards, and bold ambition. To succeed, we must collaborate across banks, regulatory bodies, fintechs, and investors. Educate the public to understand both the opportunities and the risks. Invest in cybersecurity, compliance, and talent building. And lastly, legislate wisely, protecting stability without suffocating innovation. If we get this right, Africa will not only keep pace with the global trends, but we will also shape them. The Ghana Association of Banks is ready to take up that step. The question is whether we will walk this bridge together as a continent determined to lead the next era of finance, which is in digital technology and digital asset. At this note, I thank you for the opportunity, and I wish all of us a successful day 2 of this fantastic event. Thank you.
Oh, please, another round of applause. I told you you are going to get some answers from John. So thank you very much, Chief, and he will still be with us for some time. Yesterday, he spent quite a number of hours with us, going through the entire period, and he's been magnanimous enough to be with us today. Our next topic will be powering digital finance, the role of data centers in Africa's digital asset economy. And this is another all-important topic that we need to pay rapt attention and listen to. The presenter is the country manager, PAIX Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mr. Sadiq Abubakari. Please acknowledge him very well yesterday. We had a piece of you yesterday. Yeah. So it will be better today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. So I'm here to present on the role of data centers in driving digital asset economy. I'm sure most of us know what data center is all about, but usually we are used to the virtual machines, that is the cloud services. And I would like to see by how many people have seen a real data center before in country or outside the country. Has anybody seen a real data? Thank you very much. So I want us to look at what we can do to power our digital asset economy in the country. All right, so I would like to start with the first slide. So we are looking at what Africa Digital Financial Revolution is happening currently. We know the adoption of crypto is very high currently. With the likes of South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, and Ghana, the usage is very high right now, looking at the blockchain innovation that is happening within Africa right now. And we can also look at the fintech platforms. Most of the fintech platforms are now driving digital asset and digital finance right now with the penetration of mobile money in the country. Recently, I'm sure you can see what the BOG did by sanctioning some of the fintech, especially the PSP players, because they haven't sanctioned them to what? To roll out within that space. I can see my good friend, Ebenezer Gani here, who is also playing very well within that space. In all this, without the infrastructure backbone, none of this digital innovation that we are talking about or that of the digital asset can function, because most of these things ride on the backbone of digital infrastructure, that is the data centers that will power this whole revolution that is happening within Africa. So we are looking at why data centers are critical in this whole industry, because without data center, nothing is going to happen. You can have your on-prem service, but without the proper infrastructure that will drive the high volumes of transactions that we are doing, we aren't going to see a lot of improvement with it. So we are looking at what data centers can do, especially in terms of scale processing, especially the store and process of massive volumes of transactions. We know crypto, Madakwenkwen said, the high volumes that you are driving within Africa, without proper data center that can help you drive this and internet access in real time, it will become very difficult for you to drive this. And also, we are looking at security and compliance. We know the AML, the KYC, and that's what the CFT. That is also helping us because in as much as they are taking our data, we must also be compliant with the data that we are giving out as well as what we are trying to do. And also looking at the hosting regulation and compliance nodes, especially APIs within the securely platforms that we already have in the existing data centers. And you know, when you have your data being hosted within a proper data center, which is well equipped with the state-of-art facility, like currently in the country, we have about 4 data centers, and these are all tier 3 data centers that are well recognized and well equipped to provide you these services. And the best data center can give you is the low latency. Currently, you know, what happened last year with the internet disruption in the country, that was March 4th last year. Most of us were confused. We don't know what was happening. And most of our data go transit before coming back to the country. Anybody, any data site or any internet that you want to access, it goes outside the country before it can hit back to the country for you to access. So when we have the cable cut in country, it affected most of us. It's like we had a total blackout. But currently, there is a solution in country that we don't need to go outside the country, but you can access data in country called the Internet Exchange, and we know Accra Internet Exchange have it. When you connect to it, you're able to access low latency of data and also internet on it. And reliability too, you know where the data center is. At any point in time, you can walk in, they give you access, because once your data or your infrastructure is being mounted at a data center, you have the opportunity of, at any point in time, having access to your data and your infrastructure, and you can even have visibility of what is happening with the temperature and cooling and everything. And I think it's very critical, especially looking at the digital asset infrastructure, because crypto, stable coins, and any other Bitcoins that we are doing, without data center, none of it can happen. Like my friend Larry said, I know where they host their data in SA, which is very huge at the AWS Center in SA, especially Joburg in particular, and it's helping them a lot to drive their data, what we call a transaction at a higher speed, as you know. So we are looking at currently digital assets booming across Africa, especially with P2P, which is very huge in Africa, especially Nigeria is leading within Africa, followed by South Africa, Kenya. Ghana, we are also picking up, and we are doing very well with it. I think my good friend Enchi Bosiaku mentioned about the 5 billion plus remittances that is currently happening within Africa, and also 2 regulatory entities, that is BOG and that of the CBN, that is Nigeria. They've done the pilot. I'm sure most of you were at the 3i Africa Summit last year. We saw the pilot in real time, especially from Central Bank of Ghana to the Monetary Authority of Singapore, happening in real time. And they did one other pilot too, from Accra here to Asankarigua in the Western North region, for us to feel and see how the ECD is also working. And I think they're also helping to drive the digital assets, because they know without them, we can't drive it, even though they don't understand, but they've seen that there's the need for us to also be abreast of what is happening. So that's why the regulators are also coming up with CBDC pilots so that we can understand it. So infrastructure, we are looking at infrastructure caps limiting the growth of data centers within Africa, especially to within Ghana. Let me limit it here. So currently, we have a low data center density in Africa, but likely we have the likes of South Africa, Nigeria, and Kenya who are taking lead in data center business. The whole country here, we don't have any tier 4 data center in Ghana, none. The only tier 3 data center, there are only 3 in the country. So that means when we talk about tier 3 data center, that means that they have 3 layers of everything. Power is in 3 sections. So if this one goes down, the national grid goes down, they should be able to plug into the solar. If solar goes down, they have to plug into the gensets. So basically, this is how they are classified at tier 3, tier 4. But currently here, we have only tier 3 data centers, and there are only 3 driving data center businesses in the country. So that's why you can see the power and cooling. These are challenges that we face, but likely, starting from February this year, we haven't had power fluctuation issues on that side. So most of our stability in terms of power is okay. So most of our Ghanaian business depend on offshore dependencies, especially for hosting of our information, our data too. Currently, most of our tech brothers here all host their data on cloud. When we have access to data centers that you can just co-locate with your business and also in your infrastructure to make the cost very cheaper. At the same time, to drive low latency when you host your data in country on that side. and limited internet connectivity. Because there is internet penetration is very low here, and we don't have reliability of internet connectivity, it makes it very high for us to have that internet connectivity we want. So that's why Accra Internet Exchange has introduced the Accra IX, basically mean that anybody here who connects to the Accra Internet Exchange, your internet is within country. It doesn't go out and come back. And sometimes even your platform can be zero rated. So assuming that maybe you have the mobile money app, you don't need internet connectivity before you can access the app. Equally, you can have any bank app you have, but once you connect on the Accra Internet Exchange, wherever you are within the country, immediately you have just any tower that you can get your signal, you should be able to access internet. And connecting to the Accra Exchange is free of charge. Anybody who wants to connect with your service or anything, you can talk to members of Pax Ghana Limited. They are here. They can connect your service or any access for you to have free connectivity of the internet in country. So we are looking at data centers as a growth catalyst. You know, without data centers, we can't drive our digital economy. Most of us, we know we host our data on cloud, but the cloud sits somewhere in a data center. I was shocked recently to see Ghanaian data in Singapore. And fortunately in fact, I challenged the data to see what it was. They showed this was our medical records, because most of our medical records are being hosted on cloud. And the cloud has a data somewhere that it sits. So I challenged the guy that I don't believe what he's telling me. So he pulled me to a room. He opened, and I could see real time our Ghanaian data, Kofi Ama Kwabena, the likes of my brothers, we all data being shown to us. And these are data that are being mined. And they come out with new products, and they come back to sell to us. So that's why we are championing the need for us to co-locate our data in country. And recently, with the support of the regulators, NCA, NITA, and BOG, they are also pushing most of the PSP and the banks to do co-location, especially in countries, for data sovereignty. Because we don't want to see our data outside when we can already host our data in country on that side. And also, blockchain nodes and validators, as well as RegTech companies, also bring our tokenized access platform. Basically, why we are saying you should host your data in country just to bring you faster transaction process. It reduces network latency because you don't need to go outside the country and come in terms of internet connectivity. And also, it improves regulatory compliance with the likes of DPC, that Data Protection Commission. They can all help champion all this. So the next thing, what we are looking at a success story across Africa. And one is Pax Data Centers. They operate within Ghana and Kenya. That is where I work with. I work with Pax Data Centers. Currently, we are the most connected data center in the whole of Ghana. All the ISPs in over 40 plus are connected with us. And any of the backbone infrastructure you can see is also connected with it, and all the MNOs. So what we are trying to do is that we are offering to you most of the industry players free of charge. Come and connect on the Accra IX. It's free. You can have internet access locally without being charged on any of your platform. Terraco is in EA, that is East Africa, as well as ADM in Nigeria, who they are also doing very well on that. So what we are trying to say is that regulatory and data sovereignty is basically means that let's help localize our data so that we can host our data locally. It also helps in AML and CFT compliance as well as data protection, because when we have our data locally being hosted, it's very easy for us to manage and also prevent cyber security and cyber attacks with that, as well as CBDC support from the regulatory authority like BOG on that side. So we are looking at sustainable digital infrastructure. What can help to power this digital infrastructure with the like of solar power. We can also do the green cooling as well on carbon offsite and also climate goals that can help drive and align infrastructure with African sustainability goals. So the way forward is very straightforward. We need about 5 billion investment needed to power data centers within Africa. And we also need strategic partners. So if you are an investor here who is willing to partner, because currently we have footprints in 6 African countries, and we are looking at partnership to expand to other African countries. As I'm talking to you now, Pax Data, we control 3 countries within Africa from our old building, from Busy Internet. That's where we operate from. We control Burkina Faso, the Gambia, and that of Mali. So today, if Pax go off, these 3 countries are going to go off, and part of Portugal, because we power through the cable to Portugal. So if today Pax go off, most of these countries will go off. So you can see how critical we are. we have a SLA of 99.98% that we assist you with. So anybody who is willing to support or want to invest in data center business, we are more than happy to assist you and to bring you on board, because we are looking at expanding to African countries. And this is African owned. So we are owned by AU, and that is African 50-day investment arm of AU. So what we want to do is that AU said, look, let's not allow the America to host our data anymore. Let's have our own data centers in country. Because currently, anything can happen, especially when you look at what Trump is doing currently in America. There can be one day, you know what, let's shut Africa down. The moment they turn out the knob of AWS, that is all, we are out. So that's why our African Union thought, well, you know what, let's have our own data center business across the country. And that's why they've taken the time to invest in PAX Data, which is Pan-African Internet Exchange, that's the meaning of PAX, so that they can invest in us across African countries. And currently we are almost nearing to 18 African countries as we are building across these African countries, so that we can localize data and have data sovereignty within Africa. So on that end, I would like to end by advising most of our participants that our doors are open. If you want to do a tour of our DC, our data center, it's not far from here. That is OBZ Internet. We have the state-of-the-art facility there. You can tour and to see what we can do together. Thank you.
So he's the only one I didn't ask you to clap for when he was done. Please do it for me now. I am surprised they are still looking for investors anyway. You are for the whole of Africa, eh? You have investment from the whole of Africa. And so you have a lot of money. Please do it well for him, for me, once again. We are going to have a fireside chat. I said that we'll do lots of interlacings, and so that's going to happen. But kindly indulge me. Let me have this one before we do the fireside chat, and then we can go on our coffee break, and then the rest of the programs can duly continue. So yesterday when we were rounding up, Peter had mentioned one ambassador who was going to come in and speak to us on a specific topic that's world inure to the benefit of everyone who is participating in the program today. He's Ghana's ambassador and permanent representative to the United Nations. And so when you go into the United States of America, there is the Ghana Embassy, and there is also the permanent representative to the United Nations. They deal with the United Nations on everything that concerns Ghana. Currently, the ambassador and the permanent representative to the United Nations is here, and he's going to address us on the impact of digital assets in Africa's burgeoning economy. Are you ready for it? You are sure you are ready for it? So I can go on before we do the chat, and then we go for the coffee break. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the Ghana's ambassador and permanent rep to the United Nations, His Excellency, Ambassador Harold Agyemang.
Moderator, let me begin by thanking you for the wonderful job you are doing moderating this session. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure for me to join you virtually on the second day of the Digital Assets Summit Africa, DASA 2025. And I would want to begin by commending Peter Frimpong Manso and his team for putting together this timely summit. Well done, Peter. I'm also happy to hear that many leaders participating in this summit from yesterday have included those from finance, technology, and the regulatory spaces. The presence of so many of you in the room yesterday and today, I believe, is a reflection of the interest on the subject, but also of the inherent capacity of Africa to organize itself, to be at the cutting edge of global innovation, to define solutions to the continent's problems, and deliver results that meet the aspirations and needs of our people. I was happy to hear the previous speaker talk about the data exchange center put up by the African Union. And as a continent, Africa has a blueprint, Agenda 2063, a blueprint for delivering outcomes for an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful continent driven by its own citizens. It is in this context that I salute this summit as an important contribution towards the achievements of Africa's aspirations. To be clear, nobody but Africans can develop our continent. Many would come and say they want to help, but their help would only extend to the point where it serves their interests. It is only Africans whose efforts and endeavors would converge with the interests of the continent. Let this summit therefore instigate our resolve for common actions, a resolve that as Africans, we would develop our own solutions for our own problems. And here I speak of global Africa, not only those on the continent. Distinguished participants, I believe that point has been made that while the continent of Africa accounts for only a small percentage of the global digital assets transaction volume, the adoption of digital assets is high in comparison to other continents, and the prospects for growth are encouraging. Annual growth rate of 6.37% is anticipated for 2025-2026, and the user penetration rate is projected at 5.5% for 2025 and 5.9% for 2026. By some projections, the digital assets market in Africa would reach 5.6 billion by the end of the year, with nearly 76 million users by 2026. However, place aside total market capitalization of 2.7 trillion in 2024 globally, and a digital assets custody of around 708 billion United States dollars by the end of this year, there is much room for growth. The scope for growth for the digital assets market on the continent of Africa is one that we all must work towards, especially given that thus far the market has been concentrated in key regional hubs such as Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, Ethiopia, and Ghana. Even as institutional interest grows, fueled by better infrastructure and evolving regulations, we continue to see a dominance of stablecoins in the African digital assets market, particularly those pegged to the US dollar, which accounts for nearly half of all digital transactions. The trend of growth of Africa's digital assets markets will be driven by several factors. The first is demographics. Africa has close to 70% of its population being under 30 years, and this youthful population is growing. It's tech-savvy and open to innovation. As the president of Ghana said a few days ago at the United Nations, the future is African. This is because by 2050, Africa's projected population of 2.5 billion will constitute 25% of the world's population, and 1/3 of all young people aged between 15 and 24 years would be residing on the African continent, according to estimates by the United Nations. The youth bulge would be the greatest driver for digital assets growth on the African continent. Next is the economic circumstances. The volatility in the foreign exchange market and rising inflation have given a strong boost to digital assets, as many have sought to overcome difficulties associated with access to the United States dollar and hedging against national currencies and inflationary pressures. Digital assets have also served as a faster and cheaper alternative for traditional remittance services, as the fees for remittances to parts of Africa remain high. Next is the emerging blockchain hubs across the continent and increasing government and regulatory support, which have given confidence to adopt the use of digital access. And lastly is the growing financial inclusion. Africa has some 500 million mobile users, and the robust digital money services pioneered by the likes of M-Pesa provide a basis for the transition to crypto wallets and exchanges. For many, especially the unbanked, the widespread availability of mobile technology provides an avenue to fill their financial inclusion needs, left unattended to by traditional banking. Distinguished participants, in Africa, therefore, we are beginning to see a shift from the earlier view of digital assets as a speculative venture into one where it is seen as a real-world utility, as many ordinary people adopt it for daily transactions and businesses also use it as a hedge against inflation, manage currency volatility, and arrange retail size transfers, including with regional and international counterparts. Africa is indeed experiencing a digital revolution, with mobile penetration, fintech adoption, and blockchain innovation accelerating. I believe that the digital asset spectrum remains relevant to deepen financial inclusion on the continent, facilitate the expansion of cross-border trade in addition to the Pan-African payment system of the African Continental Free Trade Area anchored on the Afrexim Bank's payments settlement system, tokenize the agricultural sector and drive the modernization of Africa's agriculture and food systems to ensure food security, which is an important goal for the continent, improve the real estate sector through blockchain, land title registries, and identity systems, and unleash the potential of the growing creative economy of Africa through NFTs for music, arts, and intellectual property. Participants, the pathway towards an Africa that is facilitated by digital access means that we should not ignore the risk. First, the strong drive of innovation is not going to go away, and it is heartwarming to see many African states reversing previously banned digital access and beginning the establishment of regulatory frameworks. Indeed, for the digital assets market of the continent to grow, regulatory uncertainty must be removed. I was therefore happy to hear that Governor Johnson Esiama of the Bank of Ghana has shown interest in leading efforts to improve regulation of Ghana's digital assets market. That is good and welcome news. But importantly, across West Africa and continentally, we must also harmonize regulations. Infrastructure gaps must also be addressed. Secondly, cybersecurity and fraud are big concerns in several parts of Africa. Many payment services have been blacklisted in some of our countries, and if we are to drive a deeper digital assets market, we will need to improve the cybersecurity measures and take stronger actions against fraud, as well as also money laundering, which could aid extremists and terrorist groups. In this regard also, education and digital literacy is important, and we heard this morning the remarks of Dr. Nchibo Isiako. Participants, before I conclude, I want to offer some brief strategic imperatives. For governments, we must develop clear digital access regulations and support innovation hubs. In Ghana, as I said, the bank is resolved to bring regulations at par with innovation, and the government of Ghana, within the context of the Timbuktu Initiative, which is spearheaded by the UNDP, is working on a number of innovation projects, including those relating to the Agri-Tech Hub for Africa, which will be housed in Accra. The partnership with regional multilateral banks such as the Africa Development Bank is also crucial for successfully scaling such innovations. Investors also have a role to play, and they must put money behind the scalable, inclusive solutions and focus on infrastructure and education. Businesses must also integrate blockchain into their operations and partner with local innovators. Finally, I want to circle back to where I started. The aspirations of the citizens of Africa is for an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful continent. Digital assets have an important contribution to make to this vision. The future of the world, as President Mahama recently said, is African, but also the future of Africa is digital, and that digital future is now. From this summit, therefore, I encourage your support for Africa's investment in innovation and the shaping of policies that build the digital economy of tomorrow. In doing so, Africa should not resign itself to just being a consumer of digital assets. It must define them, it must shape them, and it must own them. I thank you very much for your attention and wish this second day session full success.
All right, thank you very much, His Excellency. Please acknowledge him properly. Let him be aware that we keenly listened to him and watched him, and we appreciate his time all the way from New York. Please, another round of applause for His Excellency. And of course, all the points His Excellency we have duly taken note of. And so I can proudly say that if you are partaking in this event, this is a great opportunity for you for networking. There will be a session for networking. So if you look at the lineup of dignitaries that we have who have been talking to us, the workshop that we are going to have, and all of the details of the things that are happening, it is important for you, not just the lessons that you are picking from our speakers who are speaking, but also the ability to network with them, to step further with your startup or with your entrepreneurship business or with your SME. So for us here at DASA Africa, it is not just the speeches or the talks that we have come to give to you, but also to give you that platform where you can have a pedestal to grow. DASA Africa, or Digital Assets Summit Africa 2025, we are networking with you and providing and giving you a good platform to grow. I'll now have the panel discussion, after which I can now relax and get you to have your coffee break so we can stretch our legs. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to have up here again my dear colleague, Mr. Moderator Benjamin Owusu Ansa. And this time around, he will be with Nana Adjoa Adobia Kate. I hope I got the name right. Kamel Cadet and Solomon Abuminya. Yesterday, Solomon did a very fantastic presentation. Even though I had to whip him in time, he still was able. Oh, are you acknowledging the people for me as they come up stage? And I will be saying MCO Kasa too much. So Solomon did a very fantastic job yesterday for me, and he's part of the panel this afternoon. So Ben will do the requisite and the necessary introduction of the people, of course. You have their details on the screen, after which we can go for a coffee break. Ben, please, the mic is yours.
Thank you so much. We work again. So I'll just start straight away from Cadet. You just give us, I'm going to give you the opportunity to do 1 minute introduction of yourself. Let's know who you are, what you do, and the rest. Can we get some mics?
Okay, so I'll start. My name is Carmel Cadet. I'm the founder and CEO of Mtech. Mtech is a technology company building modern central banking infrastructure. On the one side, we help central banks deploy modern regulatory tools, supervisory tools. And on the other side, we help them build their own digital asset and tokenization infrastructure. So we see the opportunity in modernizing central banking as an enabler for what we see as the future of finance, not only fintech, but Web3. We are proud partners of Bank of Ghana, as well as Central Bank of Nigeria, Liberia, Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Gambia. And when we look at the opportunity around digital assets, is very much what quite a few speakers have said so far. Not only access to inclusion, but also what are the opportunities beyond that when it comes to tokenizing assets. And I think Africa has a unique opportunity that is different from anywhere around the world. And I'm glad to be part of this ecosystem.
All right, Solo.
Thank you, Benjamin. My name is Solomon Sedina Madbemenya. I'm the CEO for Pod Solutions. At Pod, we are a financial services technology company. We have built the go-to platform that allows traditional microfinance institutions to bring on board their balance sheets and their customers to be able to do lending. We've built a machine learning credit scoring model that allows, again, this institution to be able to compete within this competitive space so they don't get wiped out. We also do device financing and then bill payments on credit. Beyond Pod, I'm also a startup advisor through the ALX Ghana platform. I speak to startups direct them to be able to scale up from where they are. And I also have a particular interest when it comes to fintech conversations, design think, and also be able to optimize processes. That's what I do beyond Pod Solutions. Thank you.
My name is Nanadra Adobiakate. I'm a lawyer with 10 years under my belt. I am the co-founder and senior partner of Afrimo Advisors. It's a full-service boutique law firm that provides from company setup advisory to litigation advisory to you name it. I had the fintech, the tech telecommunications practice of the firm, and our firm is also particularly interested in helping startups. So we usually run free webinars for startups and also these speaking engagements, appear at such speaking engagements to give you free legal advice, which we know that usually startups are a bit hesitant to engage lawyers because there's the view that we're too expensive, but we are not too expensive anyways. That's a joke, by the way.
I will just settle on the joke and take advantage of the joke. So you are not expensive. So we'll keep coming since you're not expensive. Well, when we talk about digital assets, there is this excitement that comes up, which is innovation. But with innovation comes with risks, regulation, and policies. I've seen that most of you, that you are the founders or you are the senior most members in the organization. Now, so I would throw this question to all of you. What are the most overlooked risks in Africa's digital assets ecosystem, and how should firms proactively address them? I've been looking at it from this angle, starting from the ground level all the way to the most pressing risks that faces digital asset firms, since you are all in that space. Yeah, so anyone can go. We are very, very affordable, as the lawyer said.
Since I'm the only gentleman here, I'll take that advantage of going first. Yes, I think a couple of the overlooked risks when it comes to this ecosystem typically will be cyber security vulnerabilities. I don't think that we have pressed home that point enough. I think that I've come from a background where organizations always only show up for cybersecurity when they have an audit or when they have to address a certain regulatory need. So, for example, in a whole year, top management might possibly not even give attention to cybersecurity, except that they have to undergo a certain certification or something. So budgets typically are either small or they see it as a need be when an issue occurs. That's one. Another that I would want to mention is user education. Like they've always said, the weakest link is the user. So sometimes we deploy systems, spend a lot of resources in trying to get protected, get risk issues addressed, but those who are meant to be the implementers do sometimes not understand the need and reasons why we have to. So you invest a lot in building systems, but those who are meant to be the gatekeepers of the systems do nothing about it and possibly makes your investment possibly a wasteful one. So these two is what I'll settle on to allow the rest also speak to. Thank you.
So for the digital asset space specifically, I think consumer protection is a big deal. Because the plumbing of finance in this case is very different from what we're used to. When you think about public blockchains, especially in finance, today you have banks that have their own private ledgers and they provide the ins and outs and they control how transactions are processed, and whether good or bad, they have their own infrastructure that they manage and they control. Now you really have to trust a number of parties that you might never meet, right? And don't know where they are. That provides that stability, that security, that data is being processed accurately, and that when you think that you have X amount of tokens in your account, in your wallet, that it is really yours, that you can go and exchange it. I think the consumer protection aspect is whether it's fraud, whether it's operational standards, and maintaining the integrity of the systems. That for me is, I think, the primary risk. And it permeates across different areas. When you think about custody of assets, so you hear a lot about custodial wallets. This is a fundamental piece of what makes digital asset possible, whether it's when you issue the token or when you move the token across different ledgers, it needs to sit in a wallet. And there are operational standards around that I think over time we will continue to develop, but that's a major risk that I would like to highlight.
So the legal risks are quite high, and it's all encompassing. So when it comes to what we're doing as startups, so as consumers, and then as the companies actually engaged in the business, the issue is we are not diligent enough. There's the need for due diligence in every transaction that you are undertaking. So you are asking who is the one issuing this digital asset that I'm trying to buy? Who is responsible? Who is even collecting the data that I'm putting out there? And we don't ask these questions. So I keep on going to MiCA and the white paper, and the need for white paper disclosures. I think as industry players, even though we're not bound by MiCA, being guided by the white paper, the mandatory disclosures that are to be made in that is a way of ensuring that you do your own due diligence. And also data sovereignty. Who owns the data, or who is receiving the data that we're getting? I was at NCA when the internet crisis happened. And that's when the internet exchange point, which we had been insisting that, stakeholders, you need to ensure that you are hooked onto the internet exchange point, because when your information goes out and comes in, as Sadiq duly said. But if there's the exchange point is in Ghana, at least when I go on Facebook, in simple terms, if I go on Facebook and I went to a page, let's say I went to Benjamin's Facebook page, because I'm hooked to the IXP, now when, Salom wants to also go onto Benjamin's page, the internet is stored locally, in very simple terms. And therefore, now Salom's phone, when it makes that request for the data, does not have to travel all the way through the sea to where the data center is, but gets the information locally. And that's why the internet exchange point is very important. But this is because we don't have the resources, or even if we have the resources, we're not tapping into it because we think that is rather not secure. But it's important that you have a hybrid solution where you're storing your data in the cloud, but you also have a local server which your data is saved on. And this is because data is king. We all know that. Now data is the new gold. And where are you storing your gold?
Right, so this is a local data center. It's easier for me to take the microphone from. I don't need to go all the way to Cadets, please. All right, so with risks naturally comes to the forefront of compliance, because then we want to find out how compliant are these or how compliant are that. All right. I have 5 minutes. Why? When did you come here? That's a risk. So I need to get a compliance here. So you coming from the legal background. Yeah, so this one is directly back to you. I need to bring it back to you again. How can African firms, how can they build compliance strategies that aligns with global standards? Or if in a better way, we can see that most regulators are now coming up with, or they are developing frameworks. So how can organizations like yours and the others kind of co-coordinate or co-create these policies that can align to global standards?
All right, so I put together an acronym that compliance is built on crypto. And C is for custody and cybersecurity, which Salom has spoken about with regards to cybersecurity. And I think even my colleague also spoke about custody. So I won't talk much about that, but we need to safeguard that. When you are a business, how am I ensuring that when it comes to the custodial chain, and when it comes to cybersecurity, I'm secured? We also need to ensure that you should have reserves and then redemptions. How are you ensuring that when it comes to stable coin, now we have the one-to-one reserves. How are you also ensuring that, yes, there's something backing your crypto assets or your digital assets to ensure that in the event of anything going wrong, there is also the need for the ability to redeem certain tokens. And this is put in place very, very well. You have policies in place for redemptions, in place for reserves that you are going to comply with. Then we have Y, which is your customer. Then we come to KYC and AML. Know your customer is very important. The very simple example of know your customer that is localized is when, you remember when you used to open a bank account and they'll give you the sheet of paper, draw the directions to your home. That was KYC. So when you're in Ghana, you don't use the KYC that is used in the US because the systems are different. How do you ensure that your KYC is localized and is adapted to the local market? Then you should also, then we come to P, protection of the customer, which is key and has been spoken about in depth. How are you ensuring that your privacy policies are protecting your customer? How are you ensuring that there are redress mechanisms? When something goes wrong, what is the mechanism that is put in place? You should have all that in place before something goes wrong. That's the best way to go about it. So you also don't need to go to court or be sued by someone for something that was preventable. Then transparency and token disclosures. Using the MiCA style white papers, what information are you disclosing? What is in your terms and conditions? What are you ensuring that upfront, your customer, when they are hooked, when they are engaging your services, they know what exactly they're going in for, particularly when it comes to the risk. Because some people don't understand how Bitcoins and digital assets work, and it's good to ensure that all of that is put on the table when you're engaging them. And lastly, O, which is oversight and operations. Sometimes when we are startups, we think that, okay, let me just go to the office of the registrar of companies and register the company, that's it. Most of us here, I'm sure, have companies, we don't have boards, but you need a board. Your board is going to ensure that you are doing the right thing. If you get someone, I'm on a board, for instance, that I'm paid 100 cedis for every appearance. I was on the board of PMMC. That's not what I was getting. But it is because I want to give back to society. So even with the 100 Ghana cedis, I tell them they should use it for lunch. I don't take it. So there are people who are willing to help you. You get a board. Now we have virtual meetings. So you can have all your board meetings once a quarter, but you know that the board is supervising you well, and based on their expertise, they're able to guide your startup or your SME to do the right thing. And then with operations, to ensure that you don't do insider trading, so you yourself shouldn't do insider trading, and then you shouldn't let your staff also do insider trading. So these are some of the things that we need to do. So once again, crypto stands for custody and cybersecurity. R stands for reserves and redemptions. Y for your customer. P for protection of consumers. T for transparency and token disclosures. And O for oversight and operations.
All right, thank you for that acronym given to us, crypto. But don't worry, next time give me that 100. I will take it for something else. You spoke about transparency, building transparency and trust. So I want to go to Solo. Solo, this one is for you. I mean, how does transparency play in both institutions and retailers, such that we want to see how can there be partnership between fintechs, banks, and then other regulators? How can we see the synergy with the partnerships?
Okay, so one of the core principles within the financial services space is trust. And trust can only be built on transparency. So as a business, to want to deal with the customer, you need to be able to be transparent all through activities, one being pricing and fees. Customers are happy when they get to know what they're actually paying for. What value are they getting? It is very critical for you to be very open with your customers. Again, when it comes to the processes that they have to undergo to be able to transact within your business, they want to understand the hows and the know-how. That's how come sometimes we have to put out FAQs to help them understand or answer questions that they typically would have on top of their mind. Another thing is the risk that they face. You need to be very open to let them know that, hey, this is what I'm putting out there as a product or service, but it could go wrong or right. In that way, customers will be willing to forgive you if something goes wrong. But once you are very secretive with your entire business, then the entire element of trust is taken away, then transparency seems to walk out of the door. On the regulatory side, I think that businesses, especially when we want to drive conversation around digital assets, need to see the regulator as a partner rather than be very confrontational with the regulator. You know why? This is our field. We understand some of the things that the regulator does not understand. So for us to be able to carry the regulator along, we need to extend that hand of friendship by being very open and share our insights within the field that we operate. And that helps the regulator to be able to understand our ways and help us get the policies that we want to drive our business. Because again, like I said yesterday, without policy, it will be chaos within this space where we innovate. And then again, within ourselves as players, we need to be willing to share data, to take away that silo operations, because when we are united, when we are synergized in our thinking forward, we build a giant that will be difficult to take down. So it's very critical for us to be able to be transparent across processes, systems, and policies that would together unify what we have to do and build, and together serve the needs of our customers.
Oh, that's powerful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So at this moment, we here are the innovators, and the one giving me the time is the regulator. We need to have a good kind of rapport. So please, let's have a rapport now. Now to you, Cadet, this is for you. Wherever we have innovators and regulators, you get to have that kind of thin line.
Yes.
If you are not careful, you stifle innovation or growth. And if on the other side, you are also not careful, you go overboard. So how can both come together and play? Bringing innovation at the same time, balancing
Yes.
governance and then compliance.
Yes, and thank you for that question, because this is at the heart of how we got started as a company. The concept of a regulatory sandbox was very abstract. And fast forward to now, I think yesterday Bank of Ghana was referencing that as far as how it's becoming a regulatory tool. And when I think about sandboxes, we talk about them, this is a supervisory tool for innovation. That's where that marriage comes together, because it inherently says, we don't know how to regulate this, and if you're a regulator, you'll know this. You can't regulate what you don't understand at the end of the day. You don't understand the risk, you don't understand the exposures, therefore you can't put the rules around it. Sandbox solves the dilemma of not knowing how to regulate and then saying no while innovation is moving faster. You can't control innovation, so how do you craft that collaboration, that partnership, that really resolves at the end of the day around risk, right? So I'll take the opportunity to talk about that, because from a regulator's perspective, look, especially fast forward to today, you know, I know central bankers who test crypto, who have friends and kids and families that are in crypto. So, and they experience ChatGPT in their own personal life. You know, we forget that there are people too, right? That understand kind of normal day. But the job, however, is to mitigate risk, right? And compliance, I say, is you understand why compliance is needed once you understand and agree that there are risks in whatever we're doing. And especially in financial market, we're talking about our money, right? Has anybody lost money before? Have you ever lost your cash before? Has anybody ever lost crypto before? It's okay. It's okay to say that now, right? So I have too. I have lost crypto, I've made payments, and it disappeared. There's no call support, there's nobody to call.
It's gone.
Right? Binance can't help you, Coinbase can't help you, you're on your own. So you look at, this is the new way versus the banking system where you were walking into a building and somebody's going to figure out where your money went. It might take a long time, but somebody's going to come back to you and figure out where your money went. So you look at, there are new risks now that require new rules. And regulators are starting to understand that. The first start was, this is bad, we don't understand it, it's all going to, mess up our systems. And then now you're saying, okay, there are opportunities, so let's focus on what are the risks exactly that we need to solve for. And that's where regulation comes in. That's where partnership also comes in, because compliance is a two-way street. The regulator puts the rules in place after understanding the risks, and the ecosystem themselves have to comply. And compliance is really demonstrating that you are managing risk. That's really what compliance is. If you look at the data that you have to send to a regulator, okay, are you a real company? Are you a real person? Is there somebody going to be there when something goes wrong, right? And also, do you have cybersecurity? Do you have enough capital? Do you have enough reserve if you're going to issue a token? Those are all about managing risk. So the last thing I'll say on that is that there's also, that partnership also means compliance, understanding why the rules are being put in place, and for the regulator to understand that innovation is going to grow and how to find that balance.
Right, thank you so much. Now I want to find out this balance here. I want to balance it so well, such that my moderator will not come and chase me out of here. So finally, your final words. Let's balance compliance and regulator. So your final words on this whole system, how we're building trust and how we're moving forward, plus future trends.
Okay, so I'll start and then I'll pass it on to you. I'm really excited the fact that we can have this conversation. I've been in this ecosystem for a good 7 years now, and I've seen the trajectory as far as when I started talking about blockchain, it was, just not particularly known, and us to be able to have this conversation is amazing. What I would say is that as regulators are trying to come to the table, I think there's a big 180 degrees that have been done now. I think Africa specifically has had a different trajectory to financial inclusion. Mobile money did not have compliance in it, right? It was just a need that ended up solving, and then you see the result of that. If there's a call to action, I guess I would say, is really to start thinking about the value and the culture of compliance and digital assets, because I think that's going to unlock so much or be a roadblock if rules are being put in place to manage risk and compliance is not something that we take seriously.
Okay, so I think that we must innovate to serve people and not bypass rules. That's my first point. 2, in the event that the regulator is silent, we need to default to global and best standards. Now, my third point will be, in the process of innovation, we must do it responsibly and making sure that we are compliant from the very first day. Thank you.
Amen.
Yes, so one that has been said already, self-regulation. So it's not about what exists, but looking at best practice to ensure that you're doing the right thing. And when it's with AI, that's the same thing that happened. The OpenAI started regulating itself before the committee on AI started putting in place the measures to ensure that they do the right thing. The existence of laws is not an albatross on your neck. You should look to how you can work within the law to innovate, but more importantly, your innovation should be scalable. I think that's what us as young entrepreneurs forget, that business is not only about a good idea, but how scalable is my idea? Because the investor is not looking at how funny or how innovative your idea is only, but how it will make the person money. And the person is looking for billions, not looking for just the thousands of dollars. So how are you to ensure that your projects or whatever innovation you have is scalable in order to make the right impact? Thank you.
All right, thank you all very much for building trust, risk management, and compliance for digital asset. Thank you very much.
Oh, is that all you can do for them? Please. You are clapping like you're exhausted. It's still early morning yet. In fact, I've been checking my time, and this time around I didn't bother them because I think we are within or just on time. Maybe, please kindly stay for me. Don't go yet. Please stay. Let me get Mimi and the rest of the dignitaries to join them again for today's picture session.
Okay.
We have the opportunity to go around and at least ease up a bit after this one. Then we can come back into...
We're very, very compliant, so you have
exactly,
more time.
you were. So now I have a lot of time for you. Peter, where are you? And yes, Larry, and the rest of the speakers. But if you have not spoken yet, please, you are still allowed to join. I think you should still move towards here a bit. You get it. Okay, thank you very much. And you've been clapping for the people that are speaking, but now it's time to clap for yourself for taking the time to sit in, do the listening. If you don't pay attention to them, whatever they are telling us will not be too relevant. And so you were clapping for yourself. Is that how you clap for yourself? Please, a proper round of applause for yourself, for participating and listening. I think I'm allowed now, Peter, with your signal. Okay, so I'm allowed now to allow you go for the break, after which the break is just 15 minutes. Yesterday, instead of 10, we did about 25 or even 30. Kindly indulge me, let's do exactly 15 minutes. We'll be back to have very insightful discussions. There will be a workshop and there will be another masterclass today. So please, let's stick to the time. It's 11:38 now, so I'll do 11:45. 11:45. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, to moderate and then to speak, because I know you're mixing the agenda.